reveals the weather's role in history's greatest events. It's important to look at all the factors, including the weather. Untold stories of survival, epic battles between man and the weather that changed the world. Sunday nights at 9 Eastern, only on the Weather Channel. History, weather permitting.
Our local Doppler radar. For tonight, scattered thunderstorms, low 57, chance of rain 60%. And on Friday, showers in the morning with isolated thunderstorms in the afternoon, high 74. And Friday night, showers ending early, low 58. Our 7-day outlook.
Back. We are following severe weather at this hour in the Mid-Atlantic, and we're looking at a live picture from the Maryland Department of Transportation. You can see how difficult it is to see the lights on those cars. This is not a great time to be on the road, of course, because we've got rain, we've got heavy winds, we had a tornado warning near this area. You can see that the cars are moving along, but it is some very difficult weather right now. In fact, we are under a severe watch right now for thunderstorms, as you can see all throughout the Mid-Atlantic, also down into North Carolina and over to places like Tennessee. As we zoom in, you can see this area along the coast has been classified as a particularly dangerous situation, meaning they could get winds up to 80 miles per hour. And this is under effect until 10 o'clock tonight, the severe thunderstorm watch that you see in the Mid-Atlantic. Dr. Forbes and Kelly are out in the expert area, and they are monitoring this weather. Dr. Forbes.
That's right, Kyle. In fact, we have a ground stop at all those airports, Greg. In fact, for a while there, they were seeking shelter at the Baltimore airport.
Yeah, indeed. Well, they had a tornado warning. A massive bow echo was damaging winds pushed right up into that area. And they're going to have a ground stop for a while. There's a lot of rain and thunder that is rolling across the area. Take a look here in the satellite picture. You can see all these high-topped, orange-colored thunderstorms. A big line from the Washington, D.C., Baltimore area down into western North Carolina. Even a second little line behind that in eastern Tennessee. This little cluster, by the way, is the overnight derecho that rolled across from Indiana to Pennsylvania. In its wake, it is very warm in any places that did not get a lot of cloud and rain from it. The sun has come out. Look how sunny it is. Absolutely sun to storm there right along that squall line, and it is extremely unstable. Part of the reason it's a particularly dangerous situation is that the winds aloft, about 5,000 to 10,000 feet, are 60 to 70 miles per hour. So the thunderstorm downdrafts push those down to the ground and add to it with their own negative buoyancy. So you can get 60, 80 mile per hour wind gusts today. I have seen 68 mile per hour wind gusts at Roanoke.
And that's the strongest wind that you've seen so far, Greg?
That's the strongest I've seen, but I've been pretty busy. I haven't had a lot of time to be checking the observations. It is a southwest flow of Gulf of Mexico moisture ahead of this blue cold front and very unstable air. The situation, it's not quite as warm where that last night's derecho went through, so that warm front, the low New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, has a better chance of a tornado, but if the storms can generate. That's why perhaps we've had some of these tornado warnings up in the Washington, D.C. area. The wind field is a little bit more favorable there. Looks like the tornado warnings have expired, but now flash flood warnings up across the Baltimore, Washington area, and a big long squall line from Salisbury, Maryland, down to Richmond, and that goes all the way into western North Carolina. Let's take a look at some of these storms in more detail, and we'll start with the Baltimore area. Here is the bow echo that earlier had tornadoes on that as it was down in the Rockville area. The area is just north of Washington, D.C. That is surging now across Anne Arundel, Baltimore City areas with damaging winds. I'll look at that in more detail in a moment. And the tornado warning that is off to the east of Washington, D.C. has expired, but Anne Arundel, it's just part of that same great big severe thunderstorm warning at this point.
And Greg, while you're talking, by the way, on the left, we're showing live pictures from the DOT camera in Maryland, just showing the very heavy rain associated with this system.
Yeah, and here's that northern storm. It is a bow echo, a very well-defined individual bow echo. And it's turned into a comma shape. The comma head, the punctuation mark, really surging the winds there north of Riviera Beach up to the Edgemere area. I can show you that, in fact, in the storm velocities. These are very fast flow here across that area. So a dangerous storm there with mostly damaging wind threat, but you can never totally rule out tornado. There could be little tornado circulations that aggravate things on the leading edge of that. Then farther to the south, another bow echo, not quite so exaggerated, but strong winds there from Severna Park to Parole, heading toward Gibson Island and Pinehurst, Skidmore, Annapolis, all across Maryland. These storms are racing at about 50 miles per hour or so off toward the east. So no surprise they would have 60, 70 mile per hour winds in them. So Salisbury, Maryland, down to Richmond. You see a line of thunderstorms embedded in it. There's going to be a lot of trees and power lines down. And Lancaster, Middlesex, Richmond counties are included in that. And that goes all the way down to the North Carolina border. I tried to time that out such that Norfolk about 6:26, Elizabeth City, North Carolina about 7:38, as this line comes down, and damaging winds just about every county. So expect power outages, trees and power lines down, even some roofing damage. And that continues down into the Greensboro area, getting close to Charlotte, a second line back coming into the Asheville area. So let me time out that leading line at about 50 miles per hour, coming into Raleigh about just before 6 o'clock, Fayetteville, North Carolina, about 7:10. You see some of the other times there in that box in the upper left. A lot of widespread damaging winds. If you're in the mindset that, oh, I only take shelter, I only worry if it's tornado warning, today you need to change that. We're going to see maybe every neighborhood feeling some branches down, maybe power outages widespread, because these are really very intense thunderstorms, not your garden variety type. Then, from just west of Asheville over to north and east of Chattanooga, Tennessee, the North Carolina-Tennessee border there, still one tornado warning embedded in that, and a rotating storm embedded in the line. Haywood County with a tornado warning around the Crabtree, Jonathan Lake, Juneau areas. This one has some pretty decent rotation in it. We're talking almost right along the I-40 area coming down toward Waynesville, and it has some pretty decent rotation right in there. The greens and reds, the couplet, pretty close to the Jonathan area. Dangerous storms there. We have some other storm threats, by the way, Montana, Colorado, Wyoming, Kansas, Nebraska, but by far the biggest widespread threat may build into northern Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama, out of the Tennessee area where it is. The greatest tornado threat is up in this area with better wind shifts, but it's not quite as unstable there, and some of the storms have gone through this. Torcons of 4, mostly shifting now down into the southern Virginia and the Carolinas area where the Torcons are 3. Tomorrow, a better story for all of these areas. The cold front will shift way down to the south. We'll have some severe thunderstorms down in southern Georgia, northern parts of Florida, and then again a little farther east tomorrow ahead of this next weather system in the Dakotas down to parts of the Central Plains. Kelly.
All right, Greg, thanks so much. Breaking news, by the way, more than 23 customers in northern Virginia now without power because of these storms. Kyla, back to you.
Kelly, thank you. And we want to take a look at our breaking weather alert system, where we have a few updates to tell you about as we go through the afternoon here. We have reports of a downed tree near DuPont Circle, that is right downtown Washington, D.C., a very busy area. And also in the D.C. metro, buses are being rerouted in some Maryland suburbs due to downed trees and power poles. And 23,000 customers without power right now in northern Virginia. So these storms definitely having a big effect on the mid-Atlantic. And right now, joining us live on the phone, Prince George's County Office Emergency Management Director Ronald Gill. Thank you so much for joining us. What kind of a response are you having to react to right now?
Well, basically, we received 2 reports of tornadoes unconfirmed touchdown near the Laurel area. We had reports of some structural damages up in that area. As you know, the storm has just passed, and we're just starting to get damage reports at this time.
And have you heard any specific damage reports? I mean, I know we're talking about structural damage, but have you heard any injuries to people that you've been reporting or heard reported as you've been going through the afternoon?
Not as of yet. We do have fire and EMS units en route to the event in Laurel. I've not had any confirmed reports of injuries.
Okay, and tell me what it's like at the Emergency Operations Center right now. I mean, is it starting to get busy with calls from what's happening with these storms, or are we still waiting to hear what we think has happened? Are you starting to field calls right now?
Well, most of those calls are going to be filled by either our 911 center or our 311 center. Most in the emergency operations center, we're dealing with our coordinated resources, our county resources, and state resources if we use those.
Okay, and right now, how is the weather where you are? Are you able to see where the weather is?
Almost where I'm located this time is starting to clear up. The storm is heading east. It just left the Bowie area and should be out of Prince George's County in the next
Thank
few
you
minutes.
so much for joining us. We appreciate all the information. Stay with us, everyone, as we continue to track the storm.